Hey everybody, Aaron here with Hester's Hollow. So today we're going to be talking about the different steels and the different prices that we work with here at Hester's Hollow. So one of the first steels that we use is 5160. It's a great steel. Yep, I primarily like to use it on especially like cleavers or hatchets, axes. It's just a really tough steel. It does have good edge retention, but 5160 is known for its toughness. The fact that you can just beat the ever living snot out of it, and it's going to be there after you're done, ready for the next job. I don't make a lot of little blades out of 5160 anymore, just because 5200 and D2, they just offer better edge retention. But whenever it comes to making a blade that you want to chop and you want to whack and you want to pry with, 5160 is my go-to. Um, it's very comparable in the chemical composition to 52100, which is another steel that we use, which is one of my favorite carbon steels. It's kind of finicky, but once you figure it out, what your recipe is with your setup, you can make just some great tools. It has excellent edge retention. Uh, it has some corrosion resistance, a little bit better than 5160, but it would score like a 2 out of 10 on the corrosion resistance. Uh, but I leave all of my blades dark for the most part, or I use a ferric acid, and which turns the blades black, and all the ferric acid does is it is a controlled rust, and because rust doesn't rust. But yeah, so 5200 again, one of my favorites. I've made hundreds of 5200 blades and hundreds of 5160, and they're just good steels. You do have to take care of them, just as long as you're done using them. Just making sure that they're dry is one of the big things before you store them, and then every once in a while put in a little coat of oil or Hester's Hollow humectant, which is a beeswax and mink oil mixture that is food safe, and it protects the metal, protects the handle material, and does a pretty good job. And again, food safe. The next steel that we use is going to be D2. Now, D2 is a much higher in chromium than 5200, and it's very high in carbon as well. Great edge retention. It's really good with abrasion resistance, so it is harder to sharpen, but it hangs on to that edge, especially for making small blades. D2 is, it beats 5200 and 5160 whenever it comes to edge retention and corrosion resistance. That it has a lot of chromium in there, especially compared to 5200 and 5160, which are chromium based high carbon alloys, but it just has a lot more. It has something like 10 to 12%, whereas 5100 I think has like 3%, 2%. It's something really low, but really good steel. I don't like making big blades out of D2 because D2 gets very hard. Like I said, it's great for little blades. It's great for that cutting edge, but it's not a good blade for just whacking away. That's why smaller blades, I will always go for D2, just because it's a small blade. You're not going to sit there and baton it through an antler. I mean, you could if you want. I wouldn't recommend it with D2, but or such a little blade especially. But you could go for it. But again, D2 is just a great steel. So whenever it comes to pricing, 5160 is definitely on the lower end. It's a very affordable steel. That's one reason why it's so popular. It's readily available pretty much anywhere you go. Any junkyard that you've ever walked into or went by has 5160 somewhere in there. Um, and it's a good steel, but it's a cheaper steel. So, 5160, I mean, compared to 52100, I can get a 18-inch bar of 3/16 52100, right around $50. 2 inches wide, 3/16 thick, 18 inches long. If I were to get the same thing with 5160 at 3/16, 18 inches long, I'm paying somewhere more like, I want to say like $18, $19, somewhere right around there. So there's quite a big price difference, and then D2 jumps up higher than that. So where D2 is generally any blade that you look at, if that's 5200, you replace that with D2, it's almost $40 right there just in material and fuel, especially. D2 with the heat treatment, especially with my setup. I use a forge. I don't have the oven, and so it takes a lot of fuel. Much higher temperatures with D2 and much longer durations with those high temperatures. 5100, 5160, I'm generally operating right around 15 to 1600 degrees going through there. They quench right about the same temp, between 1500 and 1600, somewhere right in there is usually pretty safe. Uh, you know, where D2, I'm having to sustain, 20, right around 2100 degrees for about 30 minutes right before it's ready to come out and quench. And it's an air quench. So that means all I do is once it gets hot and it's soaked there long enough, I take it out and you just kind of hold it and make sure there's, no warps. And you just kind of wait till it cools off and then it goes right into temper. Temper time for all of these is the same. It's all 2 hours of, anywhere between 300 and 400 degrees typically. So with a lot of my, smaller blades like these, they're getting a 2 hour temper of usually around 350. But, like cleavers, just those big choppers, those are going to usually be around 400. Just kind of suck a little bit of that hardness out and add a little bit more toughness. But yeah, overall, pretty much the same as far as the tempering goes. And then after that, they all get handles. So that's pretty much the same. So, I mean, in conclusion of just the steels, it definitely, each steel is suited, better for a different job than the other one is. But whenever it comes to little blades, generally it's almost always D2 and 5200. And I give you those options. 5200 is cheaper than D2. Edge retention, I mean, they're pretty close together. D2 is a little bit better on edge retention, but not a lot. But it does offer much better corrosion resistance than what 52100 does. So, that being said, D2 is a $40 markup from whatever model that you're choosing that we offer that option in. And then, 5160, like I said, that's generally for the bigger pieces. I've made swords, machetes, and like I said, just cleavers and axes, stuff like that. Another thing that will affect the price is going to be your handle material. I do every kind of exotic wood you can really think of, from ironwood, ebony, Osage orange, lagunum, ironwood, and then you got all kinds of synthetics. Bone, like this is giraffe bone, stabilized giraffe bone. This right here is packwood, which is basically just laminated wood, just different colors. They're laid on top of one another and stabilized with resin. And so as you're going, yeah. So as you're sanding away, you get this really cool layer effect, and it's stable stuff. It's kind of a pain to drill through and stuff, but it makes for really good handle material. I do like that stuff. And then right here we just have some stabilized eucalyptus. Eucalyptus generally isn't a wood that you would put on a knife handle, but it's stabilized, which basically means that they take the wood and they put it in to a vacuum chamber. They take it down to no atmosphere, so it sucks all the air out of the wood, and it pulls, and then while it's in there, it's in resin. And so as it's sucking out all the air, it's pulling all that resin into the wood. And then once it dries, it turns a softwood into a very hard, stable material that is very beautiful. Same thing with the bone, like with stabilizing wood, same thing. The differences with this is that in this one they use a clear resin. That way you get all the wood grain and all of the just natural colors. And this one they put color in the resin, orange and blue, just to really kind of bring out everything. I think it's really cool. It's a very fun material. Whatever handle material that you want, I can throw on there, but there's always a price difference. Generally, with exotic woods like purple heart, ironwood, ebony, rosewood, bloodwood, red heart, yellow heart, all of them, it's almost always it's $20 for a set of scales of those. Now for the bone, the stabilized bone, that's $40. It's more expensive, but it's whatever you want to make it. As if I can make it however you want it. But our base materials are going to be just your typical micartas, like burlap micarta. You got G10s. Some of your acrylics are pretty cheap, and for if you go that route, you can still make such a really a very cool personalized knife, whatever color you want, whatever colored pins you want. And that's another thing, pins, that will kind of determine the cost of your blade as well, because if you want mosaic pins, that's considerably more expensive than just brass pins. Brass pins are the cheapest way to go. There's nothing wrong with brass. Brass is pretty. You can shine it up. You can patina it. It's a good material. And then your G10 pins, every color underneath the sun. Like these are G10 pins on this one and this one. So just black, very subdued, or you can go a little bit louder and like this with the blue and orange. But yeah, again, mosaic pins, especially like the big mosaic pins, you're looking at another $35 to $40 depending on the pin, because those take time to make. So yes, $35 an hour. With a 20% markup on like the steel and pins and all of that, and that covers all the consumables, which consumables being epoxy, lots of epoxy, lots of sandpaper, lots of belts, rouge, propane, especially propane. Electricity. It covers all of that. So, but yeah, we're just making this video. So if you decide that you would like to purchase a knife from us or have us make you something, at least you have an idea where we're coming from as far as our pricing goes. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. But yeah, we'll be making some more videos. I think in the next video, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into the steels themselves. So 5160, 52100, and D2. And I'll throw an 80 V2 in there also. I've used 80 V2. I just hate the temper time. There's nothing wrong with that steel. It's 4 hours and I got shit to do. So, but yeah, we'll be going over heat treatment, just the composition of each of the metals, what makes them different, and yeah, go over what my recipe is, and then go over what some other guys' recipes are with their setups and stuff too. So yeah, we'll cover it all. But y'all have a good rest of your day. And oh yeah, this little guy is going to be coming soon. So I'm pretty excited about this little neck knife. But yeah. By the next video, I'll make sure that you see this one. I'm pretty excited for it. But yeah. So y'all have a good rest of your day. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask. But until next time.